Hi everyone, welcome back to another speed build with Frimlin. The idea behind this build is a little cottage for a sim that wants to develop their baking skill. So at first I was thinking of making a starter cottage, and it looked like I could fit, a decent setup in within the budget, but I decided I wanted to have more freedom to add a bit more decoration and interesting, items. So it came out a little bit over budget, but the original budget was to be around 40,000, but it's 51,000 or something like that now. Uh, which I think is reasonable. You've started out in life, you've been perhaps in a different, smaller place, and you've decided that you want to have some kind of cottage baking industry. So perhaps you want to set up shop and fill your shop with loads of baked goods. Well, this is a little cottage where you could do that. And so I've got in like the cupcake machine and a decent kitchen setup with some space for you to bake away to your heart's content. So the first part of the video, as you can see, I'm spending most of my time setting up the garden and the exterior look of the build. And I went for my usual kind of rustic country garden, messy garden kind of look. I like making kind of picturesque layouts, or as picturesque as I can do with my limited artistic skill. So I'm often looking at the build from the front and from the gallery to check to see how it's looking in a kind of a layout sense, that there isn't the foliage isn't building up in the wrong spots, and it is building up in the right spots, and there's little bits of flower here and there, and something interesting to catch the eye's interest. Because the front of the house is obviously very important. I also made the whole build on a diagonal, which I've got to say I really, really don't like building on a diagonal. And that's why I think I maybe have released one house on the gallery that's built in a diagonal, because when you're placing the furniture, it doesn't snap to position, which of course is really annoying. So it means you have to just spend much more time getting, the furniture in exactly the right position, which I find particularly grating. And not every space is like 1 square by 1 square. It's kind of distorted, so you don't have. I mean, I'm very used to building in a non-diagonal house where every square, every building square that you can place an item on is square, and it's where I'm expecting it to be. And I also have particular problems with these counters because some of them snapped into place, and that was great. Other ones I had to spend ages trying to get the positioning just right to make it look like it connected up without there being any kind of overlap, because I don't want to have any kind of what I call Z fighting, which is when two textures are fighting with each other for supremacy over which is displayed to the camera. It makes a flickering effect. Um, I actually move all these counters later, so it's a shame that I spent time setting them up. Here we go, moving them over. Basically, I wanted to make sure I had room to put the cupcake machine in, and it needed to be a major feature of the room. It had to be really prominent because it was, it's the life and soul of the build. Really, that's what the whole build's about, the baking, right? So you'll see that the cupcake factory, as it's called, or machine, as I'd probably call it, is very prominent in the room once it's placed. Now, I actually went into Move Objects Cheat to add these counters, and I haven't completely tested to see whether it places properly without Move Objects Cheat on, so I'm going to do some testing with that. And if it doesn't, I'll probably go in and change the layout a little bit. So it might be different from the video and also the screenshots because I've already taken the screenshots, but I am a little concerned about this, and I want to do some tests before I release the build. Just a few tests, so I might just quickly change the layout. Please forgive me for that. As you can see, I've got a double chimney. I decided from the very start that I wanted the chimney to be really prominent in the build, much like the cupcake machine, and I wanted it to be really obvious that there's some baking going on with, smoke pouring out the chimneys. You need one chimney for the oven, another chimney for a fireplace I add, and maybe you need a bit of, maybe you need a chimney for the cupcake machine as well. Probably good to keep the fresh air pouring into the kitchen at the very least. Fresh air is not a bad thing. I really must remember to put in the lot traits before I upload this build, because there's been a couple of builds now that I've uploaded to the gallery without putting lot traits on, and I look back at them and I think, it looks great, but it would have been perfect with lot traits. Well, not everyone can get the lot traits, because you need city living to be able to have all the lot traits that are released so far. But still, it's a nice touch to have them sitting there in the gallery, so you can say, oh yes, it's a chef's kitchen or something like that. Like, this is probably what this build will be. It makes sense, right? So, once again, I found myself using objects and furniture that I haven't used before. Like, I haven't used that, what would you call it? That side table thingy that I'm placing these objects on. I don't know if I've ever used the cockerel. Not sure. I might have used the little pig statue once. I don't think I've ever used the cupcake factory in a build. Always use those spatulas in a build. You'll see them everywhere. I always make sure that I have a fire detector near the oven. Not sure if I need one near the cupcake machine, hopefully not. There isn't a smoke detector near the fireplace. Later on, I might add one before I upload. I just don't want to make it look too unsightly. But I just imagine there's going to be a fire in this house, because there's fireplace and there's going to be some baking going on. I really don't know if that machine can set fires, but I've just got this sneaking feeling there's going to be some flames. Not just during the baking process. So, because it's a bit more of an expensive house, I decided it was really pretty much necessary that there was a second bedroom, if not only for a butler. So there's the main bedroom that you just saw me placing there, but there's also a tiny little bedroom that I add in, and I squeeze it in next to a tiny little dining room, and it's actually a really oddly shaped room, and I'm sorry about that, because I look back on it now and I think it's a bit odd, and people are going to think, why didn't you make it square? But it's kind of slightly diagonal, and I think it's actually, looking back at it, the way to kind of positively promote it is to say that it's really perfect for a butler. Because you don't really care where they sleep, right? As long as it looks relatively comfortable and it's a small room. But why you would want a butler in a tiny house like this, I don't know. Perhaps you want to focus on the baking and the butler can focus on keeping the house clean and tidy, or something like that. Or you have kids, so you need the butler to look after the kids as well. Well, if there's kids and butler, you'll probably need to make a new room. I don't like these constricted builds. No, I do like them, I do. But I always think about, could I move my family into there? And in this case, I don't think I could. That's curious, but I've made a lot of vintage glamour builds recently, and other builds that required one or two stuff packs. But I haven't done, well, I think I did one base game only item starter, and I just felt like maybe it was time to have a break from vintage glamour. I mean, I felt I put a lot of time and effort into my vintage glamour builds. They're still picking up visitors in the gallery. There's a couple of small hits with the with the starter houses I did, they got a couple of Max's favorites, which was amazing, and I got loads of followers from those, so that was excellent. Uh, but the bigger builds that have actually taken more effort haven't really got as much attention, so I don't know if I should focus on Vintage Glamour. So I decided to start with a base game only build, and then maybe add some stuff from another pack. Actually, I got to the end of the build without adding in any other stuff packs, so this is a base game only build, and I hope you appreciate that. I think it's quite cool. I mean, you could add in anything from whatever stuff packs you've got. You can try to add some new rooms. I think it's going to be tricky with the diagonal, but if you're up for adding diagonal based rooms, then go for it. You'll probably need it once your family starts getting bigger, and once your baker gets more successful in her or his industry. So now this lounge area that I have here, I say lounge area because I don't really want to call it a lounge. It's really just a glorified hallway, and there really isn't any space to work with there. Of course, my own fault. It wasn't really by design. I'll admit to that. Look, there you can see the diagonal room. You probably saw it being placed earlier while I was yabbering on. But yeah, there's a little TV and some seats, and you can walk past that into the main bedroom just fine. Playtesting took care of that. A bit of decoration, but it's really focusing on a very cozy little room. Uh, you have to have something like a TV and a small build. There has to be some activities, preferably group activities. Uh, Otherwise, it could get a bit boring. But I mean, if you're focusing on baking, then this is the place for you because there's a decent kitchen. It's not massive, definitely could be bigger. And of course, there's the cupcake machine. So you could spend hours and hours of sim playing time creating loads of cupcakes and then take them to your store and sell them on. Or maybe if you have city living, I think you could take out some kind of stall into one of the markets and sell there. I think that's possible. I haven't actually tried it myself, but from what I gather, you can do something like that. So I did manage to stick a little table in there. I decided that since you're going to be cooking in there, you probably want to eat at a table. But it seems my Sims like eating at the sofa that I place a bit later on. But hey, that's fine too. Maybe they prefer that cozy space. Probably more to do with it's the nearest chair that seems right to sit on, but oh well. Maybe you can place the food in the dining room and then call to meal from there and get your Sims to come in there, and they should sit at the dining room table there. If you do that, hopefully. But I also kind of like the idea of taking your meal into the lounge area and watching TV while eating it. So I haven't put any hashtags related to children in this build, like I usually put something like kids as a hashtag or kid focused. For one of my few of my builds are very kid focused. But that room, that tiny little room, isn't really kid focused. There's a tiny little teddy bear that the Sims can't interact with, so it's not kid focused, but it is 2 bedroom. So there we go. I ticked the 2 bedroom box. Let's move on. It's not about the bedrooms, it's about the baking. But it's really interesting what kind of little areas you can make in constricted spaces. And I kept tweaking at those little areas even during the playtesting. Quite a spacious bathroom considering the build. I probably, in retrospect should have made that a bit smaller, but I actually really liked the kind of spacious feel to the bathroom. But I am not really a fan of having a bathroom in the center of a build because it kind of puts an undue focus on it. I prefer bathrooms to be at the side or at the back, so most of the concentration is where the Sims are going to be hanging out, like the lounge area, the entranceway, the kitchen, the dining area, that kind of stuff. So this build breaks lots of my norms, and so I wasn't in my comfort zone with this build. But in saying that, I'm not in any way indicating that I think the result was bad. I like the result. I think it's really cozy and warm, and you know, it was fun to use things I hadn't really used much of, like that wallpaper. Uh, I'm not sure if I used that color rug. Pretty sure I haven't. But it fitted this build. I haven't used those tiles, or I'm not sure if I have in that bathroom. Pretty sure I haven't used that sideboard in the dining room, or whatever it's called. So I'm also making a little garden area. I decided it was, while you're building up your skill with baking, you need a number of, well, you don't need, but it's good to have a number of fruit and vegetable items, like some type of fruit. So there is strawberries in that garden, and it's like Captain Janeway's "There's coffee" in that nebula. There's strawberries in that garden, and there's also onion and potato, and I think carrots, and maybe one other thing. So you could build up your skill with gardening and baking at the same time, or you could have your partner build up the gardening skill, or something like that. I usually divide my skills between my main sims in the house, and I like to mix it up. Like sometimes I fall into kind of ruts where one sim usually does all the cooking and maybe the mixology, you know, the drink making and stuff like that, and then the other sim will do stuff like handiness, you know, fixing stuff. And but I like mixing it around as well. So one sim would do the skill this time, and next generation I'll mix it around which partner does what. So I like my sims to remain interesting and unique, you know, to keep the play experience fresh. You know, so it's not just about the items and the stuff that comes along and stuff packs. It's, you know, it's about what happens with the people and how they develop, the little sim people. Um, Finding it hard to get a good balance of playing and building at the moment, because I feel a bit of pressure to do more builds, and I want to do the builds. Don't worry, I want to do them, and I also want to play. So something's gonna have to give. But yeah, just finishing off a few bits here and there. I think in the playtesting it doesn't massively change. It's pretty much like this. I had to turn around that sofa a little bit because of some placement issues. I think it made the door disappear or something like that. But otherwise, it's pretty much like this. And I just went through and changed the lighting in each room. So each room has like custom lighting scheme. Hopefully, it matches the room. I think it does, obviously. Uh, yeah, it was actually quite fun playtesting. I playtested it for a few sim days, and yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, screenshots are coming up. So there's the layout from above, so you can just get an idea. There's the lounge area, the guitar if you want to develop your guitar skills, and another view of the lounge, and the TV area. And here we are in the dining room, which also has an easel so you can paint. The tiny little bedroom for butlers. The bathroom, and the main bedroom, and the outside area. Am I forgetting something? What could it be? Ah yes, the kitchen and the baking machine. And there's another view of the baking machine. And another view of the kitchen. And another view of the baking machine. I had to have my promotional material ready. And there we go from the outside. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. I'm actually starting to care about subscription numbers now. Anyway, thank you very much and have a great day. Bye bye.